Tobias Hunger, showing us how to create custom Qt Creator wizard with a JSON syntax, if I got that right.
Good morning. Let me get rid of that for a moment. So, my name is Tobias Hunger, and actually I'm quite glad to see that I remember some of your faces from yesterday, from my session on Introduction to Qt Creator session. So, nice to see you again. So I just want to introduce myself anyway for the people that have not been here. I'm a developer working on Qt Creator for the Qt company here in Berlin. And I have 25 minutes to talk to you about the wizards in Qt Creator. And what I want to do is kind of tell you the story of what I did last year. Because last year, if my boss had asked me to present about wizards in Qt Creator, I would probably told him I have no idea about that thing. So, what changed in the meantime? Well, I had an idea which I thought should be really easy to implement. So, what I wanted to have is basically a wizard to help people download Qt Creator from our repositories, configure it so that they can contribute patches upstream, and just have that in our UI. So, let me show the wizards I'm talking about today. So it's these wizards. So if you go to File, New, you get this wonderful dialog. And I wanted to have Qt project here and a wizard for our Qt Creator. Yeah, so what I want to do today is talk to you about why that still is not there yet, and what I did to make that possible in the meantime. So I would like to show a bit what the state was last year, and then show off the work I did in the meantime, and then give a couple of ideas where we want to go with that from here. So let's get started. First question is, of course, why do you want to have a wizard in that place anyway? And I think the answer is pretty obvious, actually. So you want to help your users get started with a new project. So if you have a new developer joining a team, you basically want to tell him, go, file new, click on that wizard, maybe enter some data, maybe not, and you're set up and done, and you don't need somebody to hold his hands and tell him, you need to go to that repository and get it from there, and then you need to add the following remotes and all that stuff. So that should be automated. It also allows you to get some kind of standardization going. So if all your developers use the same wizards to create different things like special classes or something, then all of the developers will basically have a very similar skeleton to start from, and that might help to standardize your code base a bit and make it more understandable for everybody. And of course, writing boilerplate code is pretty boring to all of us, and we don't want to do that. So if you can automate that by having a wizard, yeah, it's an easy win. So let's go over to the dark past of last year. So in Qt Creator, to write a wizard, you had to write custom code. So you had basically a factory which had all the metadata you needed for the dialog you just saw, with a name for the wizard, an icon, a short description, all that stuff. And that returned a QWizard, and you basically had to implement that yourself. That's really nice because you can do anything you want with it, but it's also led to a lot of duplication of code because people just kept doing the same pages again and again, and pages started to depend on specific implementation details of a specific wizard. So it was not easy to actually take a page from one wizard and put it into another wizard and stuff like that. So, and the typical wizard was around about 1,500 lines of code. At least that were those that I removed in the meantime. And at some point, because it was really, really not fun to write a wizard like that for, let's say, a template README file or whatever. So at some point, a brave soul came up with the idea of having XML Wizard. Well, that's basically just a XML file you put into your file system somewhere. Qt Creator picks it up. And in that file, you can define one page in a wizard, but you have to define that one page, and you can put certain widgets on it, like text boxes or combo boxes, checkboxes, that kind of thing. And you can glue or wire up a bit, really simple logic to those values you got from there, and then you can run a script or run a template, or take a template and fill in that information you got from the UI, and create files that way. It's really simple. It works, but it's a bit limiting because you can add pages to that wizard with a plugin, but these pages will show up in all XML wizards. So there's no way to say, I don't need that page. Just do something. And you always had to have this set of pages, and that's really limiting in what you can do with it. And yeah, so you could use a script or templates to actually generate files with it. It's a pretty nifty system for really simple things like simple class wizards kind of work with it, but for anything more complex, it didn't work out too well. And so this is a class hierarchy we had for the factory in Qt Creator. So see, we had the factory, and we had lots of implementations for that. And all of these are for one wizard. Sometimes they read template data from someplace, somewhere in the file system, and then implement 3 different wizards or something like that. But it was really interesting at that point. So my first attempt was, I just clean that up and make the pages a bit more reusable, and I failed with that. Basically, we have so many wizards, and we have all of them add some small quirks somewhere in the engine, and all of them rely on a certain set of quirks being there. So making that a bit simpler didn't work out the way I wanted to. So the next attempt was to extend the XML wizards. And again, I failed. But this time, that worked actually pretty well, but unfortunately, I kept breaking the existing XML wizards, and I didn't want to do that because I know that we have a couple of users for those, and I didn't want to force them to upgrade to some new syntax or whatever. So in the end, I decided to do something new, and that's where we are now. So what I wanted to have is basically a wizard that is as easy to write as an XML wizard, but with more power, so you can customize it further. And I wanted something that's actually powerful enough to replace all the, well, ideally all of the wizards we had so far in C++ code. And ideally, I didn't want our users to notice that I switched out the wizard stuff. Because, I mean, who cares whether it's a C++ code or configuration file, as long as the class is generated that you want to have. And with that, this is a JSON wizard that's reusing one of the pages we had or used in other wizards before. So it looks exactly like the old one because it's the same code. And then I can tell I want another page of this one is a custom page. This is just a drop-down box here that you can configure in the wizard itself. And I want another page that's already existing and used in other wizards, or has been used in other wizards, to select the kids. And finally, I want a summary page, which is also used in the existing wizards before. So the users ideally don't even notice that I switched out the whole engine beneath it. So how does it look like? As I said, I wanted to start off with an XML wizard, but since I kept breaking them or compatibility with what we had before, I just decided let's do something next to it. And since we were using Qt 5 at that point, and that has a pretty nice JSON parser, I just thought let's just run with JSON and use that. So what I have now is basically a simple JSON file you put somewhere. It contains one JSON object. And with that, you can define a set of pages you want to show. This set can be extended by plugin. So if you write a plugin, you can have your own pages, and those will be addressable from all existing wizards. And you can have any number of pages. You can have the same page twice, which is especially useful for these field pages, as we call them, where you can basically set up your own widgets on them from the configuration file. So you can have several of those custom-made pages, basically. And finally, I wanted to have a set of generators, which are then used to generate files with the input we collected in the wizard. And this, again, you could have any number of generators. So you could have, in theory, you could generate one file from a script, another file from a template, and just mix whatever works best for that file. In practice, I actually never got around to implement the script thingy, and because the template engine got a bit extended too, and that worked really well for everything I needed to do so far, so I have not implemented script generators yet. And actually, I was able to replace quite a bit of the wizards we had. So this is QtCreator 3.5, and you see a lot of the code is gone. So I basically ripped out, I think, close to 60,000 lines of code. So I was really happy with that. So next, I wanted to show how that JSON file looks like. So if you want to write a wizard, you at least know how to get started. And it's a really simple structure. So the first thing is a JSON object, just one JSON object, nothing else. So, and of course, it has a version number because everything should have a version number, basically. At the moment, that's 1. Then I basically add a set of metadata, like what kind of wizard is it, which category does it belong to. All the strings starting with tr are actually translatable, so you could put an object here with the string in different languages, or you can use a QtCreator system to actually translate it for you. That works if you ship it with QtCreator, of course, only then. And all the other metadata that we had before. So, and that's what goes there. So here, the kind basically says whether it's listed here or here. The name is here, the icon, you have the description here. So that's all the meta information you get in that dialog. The next section is a section of options, which is basically just a list of key value of objects with 2 keys, a key and a value. And you can use that to define shorthands for the rest of your wizard, basically. Let me show an example. So basically, whenever the wizard encounters ADR pass, it will basically use this string instead. It's really a simple string-based kind of macro replacement. It's really simple. The next section is the pages you want to see. And that's, again, a list of JSON objects. The list can be empty. If it's empty, then you don't see a UI, and the wizard will just generate files, which can be useful if you have, for example, you want a user to download a certain project. You know the URL, so why bother the user with a UI? You just start doing stuff. And that looks basically like this. It has a bit of meta information, like a display name, a short name. The ID is basically what kind of page is that, and a data section. This data section is passed on to the class that implements this page, and that will do whatever it provides. It picks out any information it needs from there and configures itself there. But I don't want to go into details here. And here you see the display name goes, this is the title of the page. You have the short title that comes up here on the side. So again, it's pretty simple metadata. And finally, we have generators. Again, a list. And so far, I basically only have the file generator. So the type ID is file. And then you can basically have a source file, which is relative to the JSON file itself, and the target file where it needs to go, and you can say whether you want to open it in the editor when the wizard is done, or whether you want to open it as a project and do other stuff like that. So it's really simple, actually. And that's basically the whole thing. There's nothing more to it. The logic, in quotes, because that we can do in there is basically just string replacements. In QtCreator, we have a macro mechanism, which can be used in quite a lot of places, for example, as command line arguments for the build system or working directories for the applications and all that stuff. And that has always this percent, curly bracket, opening curly bracket, closing bracket syntax. And that's exactly the same thing we use here. So what works here works everywhere else in QtCreator. And you can do simple things like variable names, and QtCreator exports a lot of those, like current project, file name, directory, and all that stuff. So we have quite a lot of replacements that are there by default for as soon as you open QtCreator. The wizard can define more, which usually is, for example, if this field is set, for example, by a checkbox in the UI, then it will be open in the editor, otherwise it won't. And you can actually do nifty stuff like put simple JavaScript instructions here. So this thing here will be evaluated by the QJS engine from QML, and the result of that is then turned into a string and basically replaced for the value. It's really simple, but it works surprisingly well. So, what do you do? What should you do when writing a wizard and you want to debug it? And my recommendation there is upgrade to QtCreator 3.5 at the very least, because that has some really nifty features for the wizards. They're basically just actions that are available. There's no keyboard shortcut or anything to trigger those actions by default. So you basically have to go in Tools, Options, Environment, Keyboard, and scroll down to the wizard section. And here you can define your own keyboard shortcuts. For example, here, a wizard factory reset, which will reload all wizards. Because before that, you basically had to close Creator, put the wizards into place, start Creator again, and it will parse the thing, and you could test your wizard only then. And with reloading it, it's much easier. It's so much more fun to work with that. Another thing, which is not on the screenshot, unfortunately, is I have added some kind of state debugger, which is a very simple dialog which just shows you all the replacements that the wizard knows about at that moment in time and the value, which is it's just a window that pops up with all the information in a table, and you don't need to close it, so you can keep it around and compare it to later snapshots. So that's really, it helped me a lot with getting rid of the old wizards. So if you want to write wizards, please use QtCreator 3.5 or later, and this will help you. And so if you have your own custom plugins, then you can actually use the C++ code there to extend the wizards and what you can do with the wizards there. And first you can provide new pages. So the whole complete page, you can basically provide a factory to, which says, if you encounter this ID, then you create an object like this, and you get the data section from the JSON file parsed into your constructor of your page, and you can do whatever you need to do. You can also provide new generators. As I said, so far I was pretty happy with the file generator only, but I'm pretty sure people will come up with special generators that they want to have, so it's possible. It's basically the same thing. You provide a factory, an ID. Whenever that's encountered, it will reference a factory, and you get the data section for that generator. You can also have new macros, this percent curly braces thingies. So these are actually available all over QtCreator. So they are not only extend the wizard, but for example, you could have a macro for your preferred work directory or whatever. That's available then in quite a lot of places outside of the wizards too, but they also work in the wizard. You can also define JavaScript objects, which will be injected into the runtime environment for the wizards. So if you, for example, have special file naming needs, you could have a function, a JavaScript function, which takes the class name, turns that into a file name according to your naming convention, and returns that. And you can call that from the wizards itself. And starting with QtCreator 3.6, you will also be able to add widgets to the configurable page. So if you have, for example, a checkbox which needs to interact with some environment to query whether some build hosts or whatever are available, you can implement that in C++, export it to the wizard, and just get the values from that checkbox then, which is also apparently quite handy for some SDK people. So that's basically what I wanted to say about what we have now. How much time do I have left? 5 minutes. Oh, that's perfect. So the future. Something I would like to do is enable wizards to configure a project fully. It's like add custom build steps. Like, for example, if you open a Qt project, you generally get a QMake step, you get a make step. But I would like to be able for a wizard to say, I need to run make some special magic between those two. And I also would like to be able for wizards to add options to the executables that can be run. So we extract that from the build system, but for example, that if you run a certain executable by default, you should also always pass or minus run test environment or whatever. So that at the moment, each and every developer basically needs to do that on his own, and you need to tell everybody, but you need to run this there, blah, blah, blah. And I want the wizards to be able to do that so that you really have a one-stop shop. You click on the wizard, and afterwards people can just get to work. Then I want to get rid of the remaining non-JSON wizards, with the XML wizard being last. So I want to keep that for at least another year, maybe 2. We will see, because people are still using it. I was also thinking about, because the JSON wizard is a strict superset of the XML wizard, of having some kind of automatic conversion between the XML wizard to the JSON wizards, but I've not thought about that too deeply yet. And finally, I want to have wizards for QtCreator. Still haven't managed that. So that's basically all I wanted to tell you at this point. So are there any questions? Yes? Yeah.
And after the file created, I'd like that file to be registered in a resource file, for example, in QML dir file. So do a couple of text inserting in other kind of files, not only file creating. What should I do in a wizard for this?
That's an interesting problem. I haven't thought about it yet. You could probably have a custom generator which just adds the file it generates somewhere, but that's probably not a clean solution. I have to think a bit about that. Thank you for bringing it up. Any more questions in the back?
So when you develop them, because is the recommended way of maintaining all these templates, that's the wizards that you develop. So currently there are a bit of a set of rules that, hey, don't name your files that you're using with, .qml, because that's apparently an evil thing to do. So is there a set of recommendations?
That's a good question, actually. Of course, there are recommendations what you are supposed to do with your files, but they're not different from anything else in the project, I think.
The question of maintenance comes up. How do I maintain it on the longer run? So I cannot use it in QtCreator because I need to have custom file endings and it kind of messes the whole thing up. So, how am I maintaining? And manually, basically, now I use it, but to use QtCreator configure the simple text editor. You have to just edit them. But, is there a way forward there, or is that how it's going to be?
I really don't get what you're trying to do there. So are you using the wizards to generate something and want to maintain that, or is that about maintenance of the wizards themselves?
Yes, so I have a set of files
Yes.
for the wizard, and they get copied and everything. However, I cannot use that as a project, so it's very tedious to every time I need to change something in those files that I use from the wizard, that I need to go in, take a look, because of the shortcuts and the percentages. It doesn't appear as a real QML or kind of
It's not QML, it's just text replacement.
So there's a lot of trial and error, and you treat them as text files. Basically, you start them or load them through the wizard, you create it, and then hope that what comes out at the end is the right thing. If you don't, then you go back.
Yep. It's Creator just opens the files. For Creator, it's just. Yeah. Yes. We probably need to talk about that a bit more because I'm still not 100% sure what you want to do. More questions? Yes.
Can we change them or link them to other wizards between them? So there is a wizard for creating QtWS applications, and I want to, for example, just add stuff to the project file, link to a library or something like that.
You can in theory do that, but it's not implemented yet. So it's on my to-do list, and I fixed it for the normal wizards, so I can actually move that over to the new wizard, but I didn't get there yet. Yes, in the back? You cannot, so the question is whether the wizards need to be on the local file system or not. So at the moment they do. I've been thinking about having a Git repository or a repository somewhere, which you can then update, or Creator would update on startup and read the wizard from there. But so with a new wizard, so JSON Wizard can be read can live anywhere on the file system, so that would be easy to implement. But I didn't get around to do that yet.
Yeah, that would be excellent, because with updating on the central place, every developer gets the
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm apparently out of time. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the show, or the rest of the show.